Let's start with MS Now Washington reporter and co-host of The Weekend here on MS Now, Jackie Alemany at the White House. Our senior national security reporter, David Rohde, is with us, along with MS Now military analyst, retired Army Colonel Jack Jacobs, and former Deputy National Security Advisor in the Biden administration, Jonathan Feiner. Jackie, we learned Iran targeted those U.S. Navy vessels yesterday, which appears to be a clear violation of the ceasefire, yet it did not trigger any offensive U.S. retaliation. What's the administration's thinking right now, and does this all align with what they've told Congress?
Yeah, Anna, that distinction that's being made between offensive and defensive is a strategy that the administration is trying to employ here to continue the argument that the administration is not in violation of the 60-day war powers resolution deadline and that they are still technically in a ceasefire, despite simultaneously continuing to outline military operations and a current naval blockade that is ongoing by the U.S. with 50,000 U.S. troops still in the region. We have actually the latest administration official, this was General Kane, laying out what seems to be very clear violations of the ceasefire, yet trying unsuccessfully to continue to propagate the idea that the president is not in violation of the war powers resolution. Let's take a quick listen.
Since the ceasefire was announced, Iran has fired at commercial vessels 9 times and seized 2 container ships. And they've attacked U.S. forces more than 10 times, all below the threshold of restarting major combat operations at this point.
Yeah, Anna, and what legal experts, Democratic lawmakers, and increasingly Republican lawmakers are continuing to say is that what we are seeing right now is not a ceasefire. It is maybe a cessation of active hostilities, of offensive operations, but that the 60-day clock has not stopped, despite President Trump writing to Congress last week that the war was, quote, terminated. And now the 1973 resolution does allow the president to seek a 30-day extension, which would allow him ostensibly time to withdraw U.S. troops. But Republican lawmakers are getting increasingly noisy about trying to hold the president accountable for continuing to be in a war that has not been authorized by Congress. You have almost now 5 Republican senators who want to put the war powers resolution on the Senate floor. We'll see if that actually happens. There are a lot of other Republicans who do not want to take ownership of what the president is doing in Iran right now.
Let's highlight some more from Secretary Hegseth on the status of the strait.
2 U.S. commercial ships, along with American destroyers, have already safely transited the strait, showing the lane is clear. We know the Iranians are embarrassed by this fact. They said they control the strait. They do not.
David, there was that flurry of Iranian activity striking out at U.S. vessels, at commercial vessels, at the UAE yesterday. And the U.S., though, saying that doesn't trigger new operations. What's the takeaway?
In my view, and I defer to the colonel, but, you know, this is a violation of the ceasefire. This is combat. These were major efforts by the Iranians. I had congressional officials calling me yesterday saying these were very serious attacks on U.S. warships. There were cruise missiles fired at these U.S. warships, drones. There were these 6 smaller boats that came out, and they targeted the cargo ships, but also U.S. forces. So I was very surprised after so much talk from Defense Secretary Hegseth about being so tough and strong and the importance of showing strength that he talked about, that he said there would be some churn. This was not some churns. This was an effort by Iranians to kill American service members. So they were able to shoot down these missiles and destroy these boats, but it's just interesting. And the last thing is that the defense secretary said this was going to be temporary. This is a massive American military effort to reopen the strait. This is a good thing. It's been 2 months since the U.S. has addressed this problem, which was predicted for decades. It's 100 aircraft. It's 100,000 U.S. military personnel and multiple ships. They won't say how many are involved. We can't just walk away from this and sort of hand it over to the Europeans, because they don't have this kind of capability. So there was just some of the statements that I questioned and some of the claims that Secretary Hegseth made.
And there certainly doesn't seem to be enough confidence among many of these private shipping companies to just go for it. At this point, Colonel Jack, the Pentagon saying that this posture in the Strait from the U.S. and Project Freedom is sort of a defensive umbrella, and that actually they've been reaching out to private shipping companies to try to convince them that it is safe to pass. Is that unusual, that direct outreach to private companies? And at what point would you say that this new posture and effort is effective?
Well, just about everything about this is unusual. The defense secretary touting that 2 ships have gone through is really quite astonishing. Apologize. Because 2 ships does not sound like a lot of commercial traffic. And in fact, the Iranians commandeered a couple of ships just the other day. It doesn't seem like anybody is in control of the strait except the Iranians. And the Iranians are doing something very interesting indeed. They have the capability of conducting really large-scale attacks on shipping, on American and allied military installations. They could swarm these areas, but they're not doing it. They're launching a very small number of very targeted attacks. And one can conclude from that they're just pushing the envelope. They want to see how far they can push the United States before the United States decides it's got to do something in response. And so far, we've done nothing in response.
John, I want you to pick up on that. Does Iran actually want the ceasefire to end? What do you make of their new attacks that we've seen them carry out? Sure doesn't seem like they're ready to have the U.S. have its way or to, sign off on any kind of U.S. deal.
So I think what Iran has decided at this point is they are not going to simply allow the United States to declare unilaterally the war is on, the war is off, and when they believe that the United States is preparing. Yesterday, when the United States signaled that it might start to militarily impose shipping again through the Strait of Hormuz. And so I don't think
I'm sorry, John, we are losing your signal. It's cutting in and out. Let's try to reestablish a better signal, guys. Meantime, David, Iran was, firing at Gulf states yesterday, as we discussed briefly. In fact, the UAE says they engaged more than a dozen Iranian missiles yesterday and now are promising harsh revenge. Any expectation of what that harsh revenge could look like?
It's the Emiratis are capable militarily, but they, again, don't have anywhere near the capability we have. And I don't think the Emiratis will fire on Iran without American approval. They're a very close ally. But it's great you mentioned this, because it wasn't just that they carried out attacks. The Iranians attacked U.S. forces. They attacked a refinery in the United Arab Emirates. One missile hit and caused a fire. And this is the big fear. This is the biggest card Iran has, that they can, again, use these missiles and drones to hit refineries in the Emirates, in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia. And once you destroy its ports, its natural gas facilities also, that is a months-long global energy crisis, because you're simply destroying the structure, the infrastructure that supplies the world with energy. And so that hasn't happened yet. But it was, again, at the beginning of what John Feiner was saying, the Iranians are pushing back. They're not just accepting this. And the administration wants to keep saying everything's going well. It'll be over soon. I'm sorry to make the joke. It'll be another 2 weeks. And the war will be over.
The administration wants to maintain the polite fiction that there is a ceasefire and that the Iranians are on their back leg. And, of course, that's clearly not the case.
Colonel, why target the UAE, though? Why is Iran wanting to poke UAE?
They're an ally, for one thing. They know, as David was saying, they're not going to respond directly without American participation. The United States is probably not going to let the UAE counter any strikes on its own. And I go back to what I mentioned earlier. It's just continuing to prod the United States because Iran perceives that it has the upper hand. And so far that it actually does. It is completely restricted transit through the strait. The United States cannot do anything further to open it up unless it subjects American forces to direct attack from Iran and from its allies And the United States does not want to do that for a wide variety of reasons, not the least significant of which is that it's a politically untenable thing to do, to extend the war further into the future. The midterms are coming up. The president has said we're totally in control, and we're clearly not. He would like to get this ended sooner than the Iranians would. And at the moment, the Iranians hold the cards.